The Silent Sister, Chapter 1, The Scroll of Secrets, Denver, Colorado, 2024. Dr. Olivia Thorne, a meticulous and highly respected forensic anthropologist, thrived on uncovering hidden truths. Her life was a tapestry woven with facts, data, and the methodical pursuit of clarity. At 65, she found profound satisfaction in bringing voices to the long silent dead, piecing together lives from fragments of bone and dust. Her personal life, though less dramatic, was equally ordered. A comfortable home filled with books, a few cherished friendships, and a quiet sense of contentment. She had always believed her family history, like her career, was a known entity, a neatly organized file. Her parents, both now deceased, had been loving, if somewhat reserved. They were the quintessential quiet academic couple, proud of their only child. Olivia grew up hearing stories of their modest, stable lives. Their ancestors traced back to early New England settlers. Her family tree, as she understood it, was a sturdy, well-documented oak with a single, strong trunk. A few months prior, prompted by a fleeting interest in her genealogical roots, Olivia had ordered a comprehensive, in-depth family tree service from the reputable online company. It was a professional curiosity more than a personal quest. She expected to confirm what she already knew, perhaps uncover a distant cousin or two. She filled out the forms with her parents' names, birthplaces, and what she knew of her grandparents, then sent off her DNA sample. It was a simple, routine transaction, barely a blip on her radar. Then the email arrived. The subject line, "Your family tree results are ready." Olivia clicked it open, anticipating the usual scroll of names and dates. But as she scrolled, a name appeared that sent a jolt of icy disbelief through her. Name: Elizabeth Liz Thorne. Relationship: full sister. Status: living. Contact information: blurred for privacy, but clearly indicated as a match. Olivia froze. A full sister. Living. The screen swam before her eyes. Impossible. She was an only child. Her parents, always so transparent, so honest, had never once mentioned a sister. Never. Not a photograph, not a whispered anecdote, not even a hint of a hidden sibling. Her mother, especially, had been meticulous about family history, often recounting tales of their ancestors. How could an entire sister be erased? Her mind raced, desperately searching for an explanation. A half-sister? A long-lost cousin mistakenly identified? But the full sister designation, backed by advanced DNA analysis, was undeniable. The genetic markers, the shared ancestry, the direct lineage, it was a definitive match. Elizabeth Thorne, living. A wave of nausea washed over Olivia. The meticulous order of her life, the trusted narrative of her family, shattered in an instant. This wasn't just a revelation. It was a profound betrayal, a gaping hole in the very fabric of her identity. Her parents, the epitome of honesty and integrity, had harbored a secret so profound it redefined her entire existence. The family tree she had ordered, meant to confirm a known past, had instead become a scroll of secrets, unrolling a truth far more complex and potentially far more devastating than she had ever dared to imagine. The ghost of a sister, a living ghost, had emerged from the shadows, demanding answers, challenging everything Olivia thought she knew about her family and about herself. Chapter 2, The Unspoken Echo. The digital scroll on Olivia's screen, proclaiming the existence of a living, full sister named Elizabeth Thorne, had not merely surprised her, it had detonated a bomb beneath the foundation of her entire life. Her initial shock gave way to a cold, searing anger, fueled by a profound sense of betrayal. Her parents, the people she had revered for their honesty and transparency, had lived a lie that had excluded an entire person, her own sibling, from her existence. She spent days and days, the rhythm of her work disrupted, her carefully ordered thoughts spiraling into chaos. She returned to the online genealogy portal repeatedly, scrutinizing the results, hoping for a glitch, a misidentification. But the scientific data was clear. 99.9% probability of full sibling relationship. Elizabeth Thorne was real. She was out there, and Olivia had lived her entire life as an only child. The silence around this sister was deafening. No photographs, no letters, no mention in any family story, no casual slip of the tongue. It was as if Elizabeth Thorne had been meticulously erased from the family narrative. A ghost haunting a history Olivia believed she knew. Olivia knew she couldn't confront her parents. They were gone. The answers lay buried with them, or with living relatives who might hold the key to this astonishing secret. Her first instinct was to contact Elizabeth directly through the genealogy service. The service offered a secure messaging system, allowing matched relatives to connect. Olivia drafted a message, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, words failing her. What do you say to a sister you never knew existed? A sister whose very existence implies a lifelong deception by your shared parents. She decided to hold back. Not yet. She needed more. She needed context. A deeper understanding of the circumstances surrounding Elizabeth's life before she could reach out. This wasn't just about her. It was about Elizabeth, about the life she had lived, potentially in the shadow of this same secret. Olivia began to scour old family albums, not for pictures of Elizabeth, but for clues, faint hints, subtle discrepancies. She found photos of her parents in their younger years, looking happy, relaxed. But she noticed something subtle. In photos from the late 1950s, her mother, usually so put together, looked tired, withdrawn, a forced smile on her face. Her father seemed unusually distant in some pictures from that period, his usual cheerful demeanor dimmed. Was this around the time Elizabeth was born? Olivia had been born in 1959. Elizabeth was likely older. She delved into her parents' personal papers, old letters, diaries, anything that might offer a glimpse behind the curtain of their stoic reserve. She found nothing explicit, no smoking gun. But the overall impression was one of careful censorship, a life edited to present a specific, unblemished narrative. Olivia then turned to her maternal aunt, Patricia, her mother's younger sister, now in her late 80s and living in a retirement community in Arizona. Patricia was a vivacious woman, known for her sharp memory and her penchant for family gossip. If anyone knew, it would be Aunt Patricia. Olivia flew to Arizona, her heart pounding with a mixture of dread and anticipation. She presented herself as wanting to gather family stories for a memoir. She listened patiently to Patricia's delightful anecdotes about her parents' courtship, their early marriage, her own childhood. Then, carefully, casually, she steered the conversation. Aunt Patricia, Olivia began, trying to keep her voice light. Mom always said she was an only child, until me, of course. But I seem to remember a distant cousin, a Lizzie or something, that she sometimes mentioned a very long time ago. Patricia's cheerful demeanor immediately faltered. Her eyes, usually bright, clouded over. A long, uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Her hands, clasped in her lap, began to tremble. "Lizzie," Patricia whispered, her voice barely audible, filled with a profound sadness. "Oh, Olivia, your mother, she made me promise, on her deathbed, never to speak of it. Never." Patricia looked at Olivia, her gaze filled with a complex mixture of pity, sorrow, and finally, a weary resignation. "It's time you knew," she said, her voice stronger now, but still laced with pain. "Elizabeth, your sister, was born in 1956. Your parents, they had a terrible secret. A scandal." The story that unfolded from Aunt Patricia's trembling lips was a devastating echo of a past Olivia had never known. Her mother, Eleanor, had had a severe, debilitating illness shortly after Elizabeth's birth, a prolonged postpartum depression coupled with a rare neurological condition that left her deeply withdrawn and unable to care for an infant. Her father, Thomas, overwhelmed and desperate, faced societal pressures and the rigid expectations of their conservative family. Back then, mental illness and postpartum complications carried immense stigma. There was no support system, no understanding. Their family, proud and deeply concerned with appearances, had deemed it a scandal. They insisted the baby be placed for adoption, quietly, secretly, to spare the family shame and to allow Eleanor to recover without the added burden. They had sworn everyone involved to absolute secrecy, presenting Olivia's mother as having had a miscarriage. Elizabeth was adopted by a loving family in a different state, given a new name, a new life. Olivia's parents had been forced into silence, a silence that became a habit, then a burden, then an unshakable wall. They had mourned Elizabeth, not as a child lost to death, but as a living ghost, a secret they carried to their graves. The unspoken echo of Elizabeth's life resonated through Olivia's soul, a profound melody of sorrow and betrayal. Her parents weren't malicious. They were victims of their time, trapped by societal expectations and their own profound fear. But the lie, the lifelong deception, was now undeniable. Olivia knew she had to find Elizabeth. She had to break the silence, to acknowledge the unspoken echo, to bring her sister out of the shadows and into the light. The scroll of secrets had unrolled, and the journey to reconciliation, to building a truth from fragments of pain, had just begun. Chapter 3: The Ghost in the Family Tree. The truth, as whispered by Aunt Patricia, was a chilling, heartbreaking revelation. Elizabeth, her full sister, born in 1956, not abandoned out of malice, but out of a desperate, tragic constellation of circumstances. Her mother's debilitating illness, societal stigma around mental health, and the suffocating pressure of a conservative family desperate to preserve appearances. Her parents weren't the villains of a malicious deception, but deeply scarred individuals trapped by the cruel realities of their era. The lie, however, remained, a gaping hole in Olivia's understanding of her own origins. The unspoken echo of Elizabeth's life resonated deeply within Olivia. She understood now the source of her parents' sometimes distant demeanor, the quiet sorrow that had always seemed to linger beneath their surface calm. They had carried this secret, this profound grief for a living child, to their graves. Armed with this new context, Olivia felt a renewed urgency to connect with Elizabeth. She logged back into the genealogy service, her fingers now more resolute as she drafted the message. She explained who she was, the astonishing DNA match, and the little she had learned from Aunt Patricia. She spoke with honesty and vulnerability, acknowledging the profound impact this discovery had on her, and expressed her fervent hope for a connection. The wait was agonizing. Days turned into a week. Olivia checked her inbox obsessively, her heart leaping with every notification, only to sink with disappointment when it wasn't a reply from Elizabeth. The fear of rejection, of reopening an old wound for her sister, weighed heavily on her. What if Elizabeth wanted nothing to do with a family that had cast her aside? What if the revelation was too painful for her to process? Then a notification. New message from Olivia Thorne. Olivia's breath hitched. Her hands trembled as she clicked. The message was brief, cautious, but not dismissive. "Hello, Olivia. This is quite a shock. I received your message. Yes, my adoptive parents told me I was adopted. I never sought out my birth family. It was a closed book, but the DNA match is undeniable. I don't know what to say. I'm open to talking, cautiously. Are you free for a call?" Relief washed over Olivia, so potent it almost brought her to her knees. Elizabeth was open to contact. Cautiously, but open. Their first phone call was tentative, a delicate dance around decades of unspoken history. Elizabeth Liz was a retired high school art teacher, living in a quiet coastal town in Oregon. She had a calm, steady voice and a dry, gentle humor that Olivia immediately recognized as a family trait. Liz shared snippets of her life, her loving adoptive parents, her childhood, her career, her 2 grown children, her grandchildren. She spoke of a happy, fulfilling life, free from the shadow of searching for her biological family. She had always known she was adopted, but the details had been sparse, the records sealed. The DNA match had been as shocking for her as it was for Olivia. "My adoptive parents told me my birth mother was very ill," Liz shared, her voice soft, "and that she couldn't care for me. They never went into detail. They just said she loved me very much and that she wanted me to have a good life." Olivia, her voice thick with emotion, recounted Aunt Patricia's story, their mother's debilitating illness, the societal stigma, the family pressure. She spoke of her parents' lifelong silence, their grief, and their choice to protect the family from scandal. Liz listened, a profound sadness in her voice. "It sounds like they were just trying to do what they thought was best, given the times," she said, her voice surprisingly devoid of bitterness. "It's heartbreaking to think of what they went through, and to think of what my birth mother endured." Their conversations grew longer, more frequent. They discovered uncanny similarities. A shared love for historical mysteries, a peculiar habit of humming when deep in thought, an identical scar on their right knee from a forgotten childhood accident, a small, almost invisible mark that Olivia had always thought unique to herself. These small, intimate details, shared across thousands of miles, solidified the biological connection, weaving a new, unexpected tapestry of sisterhood. Liz sent Olivia photographs, pictures of her as a child, as a young woman, with her adoptive parents, her children. Seeing Liz's face, a mirror of her own, but with distinct differences, was profoundly moving. She saw her mother's eyes, her father's smile in Liz. The ghost in the family tree had finally taken on flesh and bone. The question of meeting in person arose, tentatively at first, then with growing excitement. Liz suggested a neutral location, a charming historic inn in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was a midpoint, a beautiful, culturally rich city, a place where they could build new memories, unburdened by the ghosts of their shared past. Olivia, a woman who meticulously planned every detail of her life, found herself embracing the spontaneity of this unexpected journey. The professional quest for her ancestry had led her not to forgotten documents, but to a living, breathing connection, a sister she never knew existed. The ghost in the family tree, once a painful secret, was now stepping out of the shadows, ready to embrace a future intertwined with Olivia's own, a future built on truth, reconciliation, and the profound, unexpected joy of newfound family. The initial shock had given way to a deep, abiding hope, a quiet celebration of a sister found, a family made whole. Chapter 4: Santa Fe Sunlight. The journey to Santa Fe felt less like a trip and more like a pilgrimage. Olivia, usually so composed, was a bundle of nerves and exhilarating anticipation. She carried the weight of her parents' silence, the echoes of her aunt's painful revelations, and the fragile hope of forging a bond with a sister she had only just discovered. The historic inn in Santa Fe, with its adobe walls and vibrant southwestern art, felt like a neutral, welcoming ground. Olivia arrived first, her heart thumping a nervous rhythm. She chose a quiet table in the sun-drenched courtyard, ordering a cup of herbal tea, her gaze fixed on the entrance. Then she saw her, a woman with Olivia's mother's eyes, her father's smile lines, and a familiar posture. Her hair was a softer shade of gray, her walk a little less brisk, but the resemblance was undeniable. Elizabeth, Liz. Their eyes met across the courtyard. A moment of hesitant recognition, and a shared, involuntary smile. Liz approached, her own nervousness evident, but tempered by a quiet warmth. "Olivia?" Liz asked, her voice soft, confirming the connection. "Liz," Olivia replied, her voice thick with emotion. She rose, and for a moment, they simply stood, two strangers, two sisters, separated by decades of silence and a profound family secret. Then, without a word, they embraced. It was a tentative hug at first, then a tightening, a spontaneous outpouring of relief, of sorrow, of an overwhelming sense of finally belonging. They sat for hours, sharing their life stories, filling in the vast, empty spaces of their shared history. Liz spoke more about her loving, adoptive family, her childhood filled with art and encouragement. She recounted anecdotes that brought laughter and tears, stories that underscored her kind, resilient nature. She never expressed bitterness towards their biological parents, only a profound empathy for the impossible choices they had faced. "My adoptive parents always told me I was loved, even by my birth mother," Liz said, her gaze steady. "They said she was very ill and that it was a terrible sacrifice. I always believed it, and now, hearing your mother's story from Aunt Patricia, it makes it real. It puts a face to that sacrifice." Olivia, in turn, shared her own life, her career, her parents' quiet grief, the subtle unspoken sorrow that had always permeated their home. She spoke of her own shock at the discovery, the anger and betrayal that had gradually transformed into understanding and a deep empathy for the complex circumstances that had shaped their lives. They discovered more uncanny similarities beyond the shared scar on their knees, a mutual love for solving puzzles, a peculiar habit of twirling their hair when deep in thought, an identical, somewhat quirky sense of humor. These small echoes, these reflections of a shared genetic tapestry, wove a powerful bond between them. They were not just sisters, they were two halves of a story, finally reunited. Liz's children, a daughter named Clara and a son named Daniel, palled during their visit, eager to meet their new aunt. Olivia spoke with them, feeling an immediate warmth, a connection to this extended family she never knew she had. Liz's grandchildren, hearing the astonishing story, sent Olivia drawings and little notes, welcoming her into their world. The days in Santa Fe were a whirlwind of conversation, laughter, and sometimes quiet tears. They visited art galleries, hiked the dusty trails, and shared meals, each moment building a new foundation of sisterhood. The Santa Fe sunlight, warm and clear, seemed to illuminate the path forward, a future where the shadows of the past no longer held sway. Olivia realized that the secret, once a source of anger and pain, had now become a unique bond. Their parents, by their desperate act, had inadvertently created two distinct, yet profoundly connected lives. The ghost in the family tree was no longer a haunting absence, but a vibrant presence, a living testament to resilience, love, and the enduring power of family, however unexpectedly it might manifest. As their time in Santa Fe drew to a close, Olivia felt a profound shift within her. The meticulous, ordered life she had built was not shattered by this revelation, but expanded, enriched, and made more vibrant. The forensic anthropologist, who spent her life uncovering the truths of the past, had finally pieced together the most important truth of all, her own. The long road to reconciliation had led not just to a sister, but to a deeper understanding of herself, her parents, and the complex, beautiful, and sometimes heartbreaking tapestry of life. The unspoken echo had finally found its voice, and it spoke of profound love, enduring resilience, and the unexpected joy of a family made whole. Chapter 5: Weaving the New Tapestry. The initial shock and subsequent embrace in Santa Fe had set the stage for a profound and ongoing reconciliation. Olivia and Liz, two sisters separated by circumstance and secrecy, were now meticulously weaving a new tapestry of family, thread by unexpected thread. Their connection deepened with every phone call, every video chat, every shared memory. They discovered a mutual love for hiking, for obscure documentaries, for cooking experimental recipes. They spent hours discussing their parents, piecing together the subtle hints of the burden they had carried. Liz, with her gentle empathy, helped Olivia view their parents not as deceivers, but as victims of their time and circumstances, individuals caught in an impossible bind. Olivia, in turn, helped Liz understand the depth of their parents' hidden grief. "They never spoke of you, Liz," Olivia explained during one long conversation, "but I always sensed a quiet sadness in my mother, a sort of unspoken yearning. I think it was for you. I loved you, even in absence." This understanding brought a new level of peace to Liz, knowing her birth parents hadn't simply forgotten her, but had carried her in their hearts, albeit in secret. The extended family, particularly Aunt Patricia, was brought into the fold. Patricia, relieved of her lifelong burden of secrecy, openly wept with joy at the sight of her two nieces interacting, sharing stories, building a bond. She provided more anecdotes, filling in the colors of their parents' early lives, the anxieties and societal pressures that had led to the heartbreaking decision. She spoke of the courage it must have taken for Olivia's parents to eventually have another child, knowing the risk of another emotionally debilitating illness for her mother. Olivia also introduced Liz to her own close friends, and Liz introduced Olivia to her children, Clara and Daniel, and her grandchildren. The family tree, once a sturdy but singular trunk, was now blossoming with new branches, leaves, and vibrant fruit. Olivia found herself embracing the role of a newfound aunt and great-aunt, reveling in the chaos and joy of a larger, more vibrant family. Professionally, Olivia found a new dimension to her work. Her experiences with Liz, and the discovery of her own complex family history deepened her empathy for the human stories behind the bones she studied. She began to lecture more frequently on the social and historical contexts of concealed identities and family secrets, sharing elements of her own story, carefully anonymized, to illustrate the profound impact of societal pressures on individual lives. The scar on Olivia's knee, once just a childhood memory, now carried a new significance, a shared mark with Liz, a quiet symbol of their undeniable biological connection, a testament to the intricate, then sometimes surprising ways family manifests. It was a tangible link to a sister she had never known, a constant reminder of the threads that had always bound them, even in silence. Liz eventually made the journey to Denver, visiting Olivia's home, the house where their parents had lived and carried their secret. They walked through the rooms, sharing stories, imagining their parents' lives, both the visible and the hidden. It was a poignant experience, a quiet homage to the complex legacy they had inherited. They visited their parents' graves together, placing flowers, a silent acknowledgement of the pain, the secrets, and the enduring love. For the first time, the entire family was present, in spirit if not in person, at their resting place. The initial anger Olivia felt towards her parents had fully transmuted into a profound understanding and a deep sense of compassion. They were not malicious deceivers, but products of their time, forced to make an impossible choice that had defined their lives and ultimately brought Olivia and Liz together in a unique and powerful way. Forgiveness was no longer a conscious effort. It was a quiet, natural blossoming, a release of bitterness that allowed for a deeper love to take root. The silent sister, once a painful phantom, was now a vibrant, integral part of Olivia's life, a testament to the serendipitous nature of discovery and the enduring power of family bonds. The genealogical quest, which began as a professional curiosity, had led her on a deeply personal journey, one that redefined her identity, expanded her understanding of love and sacrifice, and ultimately made her life's tapestry infinitely richer, more colorful, and profoundly complete. The final chapter wasn't about finding answers, but about living the beautiful, unexpected truth, weaving a future where all threads, both visible and hidden, were finally harmoniously intertwined.